Okay, hi everybody. My name is Jennifer Schmult. I'm a first-year doctoral student at the University of Kansas in Lawrence, studying sport management. I'm here today with Don Costante, the Senior Director of Event Presentation and Production for the Kansas City Royals. Welcome, Don.
Hey, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll go ahead, we'll jump right into everything. Can you tell me a little bit about your background and how you came to be the Senior Director of Event Presentation and Production?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I graduated with a marketing background. And back then I wasn't really quite sure where I was going to go. I thought I was going to be in the film industry in marketing, but I graduated. I ended up taking my first step selling apples and cider out of school. Yeah, that's right. As much as I like apples and cider, I knew that wasn't going to be my career path. But shortly, about a year and a half of doing that, gaining some experiences, I was able to get an opportunity, and I got my first opportunity into the sports world. It was as an intern with NC State University. And I came in, got exposed to the marketing, the game operations. After my year was up, they hired me on in a full-time role as an assistant director of marketing, stayed there for about another year, maybe 8 months, almost a year. And then I ended up leaving. I ended up taking a position with the University of Memphis as director of marketing and corporate sales. And so this was great because I didn't get the corporate sales in NC State when I was with them. And this was a time in the country's history where multimedia rights holders were buying up properties, but they had not done it in Memphis. So I got the experience there. I was there for about a year and 8 months, 6 months before I got a phone call from the San Antonio Spurs. And this was interesting for me because I went from, this was a decision, it was a crossroad. I had to make a decision whether to stay with marketing and advertising or go now towards storytelling. And so I decided to take the jump and be adventurous. And I'm glad I did, because once I got to San Antonio, that's when I realized this is my passion. I found my career at NC State, but I found my passion once I got into the event presentation, the storytelling side of the business, creating the magical moments that live with people for lifetimes. And I loved that. So I did that for 7 years with the San Antonio Spurs. And during that process, not only did I oversee the San Antonio Spurs, we ended up opening up a brand new facility. So I had the opportunity to go through all the event presentation, event management for that, moving from an old facility into a brand new one. And then we took on 2 additional franchises with the WNBA Silver Stars, as well as the AAA Rampage. So I did that for 7 years. After that, I decided it was time for me to do something a little bit different. And I started my own company, Costante Group Sports and Event Management. And with that, we produce and direct events all over the world. We work with clients from Major League Baseball, the NBA, we do bowl games, the golf industry show, different things. And other people will hire us as well to do audits, to come in and help them in their current situations to figure out what they can do better in terms of maybe it's event presentation or broadcasting or marketing. So been doing that. And about a year into that, I got a phone call from the Kansas City Royals that said, hey, listen, we would love to have you come on board. We realize you have your own company, but if you want to, you can continue to do that and work for us. And it was too good to pass up. So I joined the Kansas City Royals as Senior Director of Event Presentation and Production back in 2008. And since then, I've had an amazing experience there, for 14 seasons, going from worst in the league to winning a couple of championships. So it's been a good ride.
No, absolutely. Yeah. And you guys won one not too long ago. So still congrats on that. I'm sure everyone's still on that high.
Oh, it's been great. Always enjoy, winning a championship.
Oh, absolutely. Any sport team. So what exactly is game presentation? Can you dive into that a little bit for us?
Yeah, so many people, what is this world of game presentation? Well, first of all, I want to rephrase it. When I got to the Royals, originally it was game presentation, but I had them change it to event presentation. And I had them do that because, listen, game presentation, in my opinion, is too narrow-minded. And what we do isn't restricted to just inside the stadium on game days. We go out into the community, we put on events. So with event presentation, everything is a story. There's a beginning, a middle, and an end to everything. So in terms of what is event presentation, what does that even mean? Well, let me put it into perspective. When you go to a sporting event, somebody's got to be responsible for all the digital assets that you see, all the content for the video boards, the LED boards, the production team behind it, who's operating those boards, the entertainment resources that you see, the PA announcers, the hosts, the in-game host, the interactive squads that might be there, the mascots, the DJs. What about the scripting, right? All the messaging for the promotions and the presentations, the sponsor fulfillment that needs to take place, from the ideation of the concepts to the development and execution of what's actually being implemented. All the ancillary activities or entertainment that's going on around the stadium or the concourses, the timing, the transition of the game itself, all of the game day staffing that's used to facilitate the implementation of your plan. The special events in the community, as I mentioned, we do a Royals Fan Fest. We have about 30,000 people that come over the course of 2 to 3 days. So we program all of that, and any kind of viewing parties that we do downtown, as well as championship celebrations, as we mentioned. But if you want to ask me, so that's kind of what encompasses event presentation. But if you ask me now, what's the definition of event presentation? If you asked me back when I was in NC State, I'd say, entertaining people from the moment they arrive to the moment they leave. But how things have changed, right? Now I would define it more like event presentation encompasses the coordination and the implementation of entertainment and promotional elements, taking all of those elements and combining them and putting them into one cohesive presentation by maximizing the resources that your organization has available to add value to all your stakeholders. And who are the stakeholders? Your fans, your partners, the participants themselves, and your organization.
Great. Well, that sounds like a much more well-rounded answer than going from what you originally said with event presentation. So it sounds like it's come a long way.
Yes.
So obviously no two people do event presentation the same. So what is your personal event presentation philosophy?
No, I love that. I love that you said that, because how we do it here is different than how the Chiefs or Sporting. It's not right or wrong. It's just different. For me, the number one thing is it's total fan engagement. For me, I'm always putting the fan experience first, above all else. We're always asking the question, why? Why are we doing this? What's going to be the outcome? What's the reaction that we're trying to get? Is this going to be something that I'm going to love if I'm sitting in the stands? Am I going to want to watch, or is it just something we're putting up there for the sake of putting something up there? Listen, not everybody that comes to the games are fans of that particular sport. Let's face it, there's going to be people who are fans of the sport who are there just for the game and that's all they want. But then there's all the significant others who are being dragged there, the boyfriends, the girlfriends, the moms, the dads, the brothers, the sisters, who don't necessarily like that sport. So our job is to entertain them. We need to create engaging and immersive experience where fans come and they can touch and feel and play with our brand. Listen, we're in the business of storytelling. Sports are rooted in storytelling, amazing stories. And it's my job in the event presentation world to deliver those stories in comprehensive, integrative ways designed to provide those stakeholders with authentic experiences. And we need to provide what's really important though, is what we have to provide variety, the variety in the content that we're delivering, because we don't want, and what I don't believe in is a stagnant event presentation. You won't see repetitiveness in our event presentation. I don't want it to be predictable. So how did I come about this philosophy? I think that for me, it was through personal experiences, just living it, talking to fans. I have talked to so many fans over my career, really researching success stories that are out there. And, probably the biggest way that I've developed my own philosophy here, or come to this idea of this total fan engagement, is really through trial and error. I have failed a lot, and I think that's important. There's a great quote out there from Teddy Roosevelt. It says, "Fail daring greatly." I think that if you look at those who are most successful in this world, not just in the industry of sports, they will tell you they failed a lot.
No, I think that's a great quote. And honestly, like you said, I think you never know if something is going to be a success or a failure until you do give it a shot.
No question. I just wish, people just got to push that envelope and don't worry about taking a risk.
Definitely. So how do you apply that philosophy to your work with the Royals?
It starts with me first in communicating with my staff what the philosophy is, and what the roles are and what my expectations are. It's about me conducting ideation sessions that promote an expansive thinking to get them to tap into their life's experiences to help us create some of this exciting content that's going to be engaging and immersive. It's about me loosening up the controls, accepting risk and trusting my colleagues, and clearing that path that removes any kind of fear, because fears can be a barrier to the creative process, and I don't want to do that. And I'll give you a practical example though of how I utilize the philosophy with the Royals, and let's talk in terms of with partnership. right? I talked about stagnation, predictability. So if I have a partner at the Kansas City Royals, and based on my philosophy, I don't like to have this stagnant kind of predictable setting. If a partner has one guaranteed feature for the entire season, what we do is we'll produce a multitude of ideas based on their objectives. We'll bring them to the client and require them to pick 3 or 4 of those, so that over the course of the season, our fans who are coming to our games aren't going to see the same thing. If you come to a series, a 3-game series, you won't see the same content. If you come to a homestand, you might see it twice. And for us, I think that's the root of what makes the philosophy successful.
That is great. And especially like you said, we have so many people coming in, with their significant others or with their children who love the game. They don't want to be seeing the same content over and over. So that's
no question. And I will tell you this, sorry to interrupt you, but the thing about it too is that my wife hates, I shouldn't say hate, but dislikes baseball. And so coming up with content that is not just baseball centric, things that will be entertaining and really engage and apply to all demographics and interests.
Awesome. So obviously you have this wealth of knowledge, but where do you get your ideas? Are there any programs who you feel do event presentation very well that you can learn from?
Yeah, I'll give you some. I mean, I think that NBA, the Golden State Warriors, do a great job. I think recently, if you've looked or read anything about some of the technology that they're taking advantage of. I mean, they're bringing the fans into a fanless environment where fans aren't allowed to come into the stadium, but they're using digital with their Dub Hub to give them those experiences. I think the NFL, the Houston Texans, do a great job with their timing, transition, and execution and their entertainment side. I think in terms of Major League Baseball, outside of the Royals, of course, I think that the Atlanta Braves do a really good job. I think that they really understand how to create a cohesiveness of the presentation. And then NHL, the Vegas Golden Knights. There's a lot of case studies out there for what they've done. They understand entertainment, and I think if you ever go to one of their pregame shows, you'll understand that. I think NASCAR, the Daytona 500 in general, probably the most immersive event I've ever been involved with, and I think they do the best job in that area. And then, of course, there's the king of them all, Disney, right? The most creative, innovative company out there that gives me a lot of ideas and what I steal or utilize when I'm ideating and trying to do things within our stadium.
No, that's great. And I love how you covered all of the different sports out there. So, it's not just baseball you're learning from, you're using techniques from the NHL, from the NBA to incorporate back into MLB.
The one thing I'll add there is not even all just sports, obviously Disney, but I'll go to theaters. I'll watch and take part in a technical rehearsal. I learn from, because what we do is theater on the field or on the court. It's all about storytelling. So outside of sports, of course, and Disney, I encourage anybody to learn. Those that are putting on performances, it's a great place to go and just observe.
Absolutely. So how has your game presentation philosophy shifted as you've grown and been in the industry?
Yeah, I can tell you this, as an industry, there's more and more focus and more attention being placed on the fan experience than ever before. Leagues and owners and upper management, they all have a better understanding, and they now have put more importance because on the fan experience, because they know how it's going to impact them financially. I mean, there's so much competition out there and so many alternative entertainment choices. It's so imperative to have people, when they show up, walk away with a great experience. Now, how it shaped mine personally, my game presentation philosophy has shifted, that my mindset now is more global than just in stadium. When I started at NC State in Memphis and even in San Antonio, it was really about the community and about in stadium. But now in today's technology world and specifically with the pandemic, everything is much more global. So, developing content with the intent to showcase it on multiple platforms is probably now where I'm shifting my thoughts now.
So to expand on that a little bit more, talking about the pandemic, how has the pandemic changed your specific role as well as how event presentation works at games?
Yeah, so, right away, I'm going to tell you, a lot of people talk with the pandemic. It's about, you'll hear people all the time talking about pivoting. For me, it's about innovating. There's no better time now than to innovate. And, to talk about how this has impacted us, let's talk about games played without fans, okay? With games without fans, using technology to connect with the team, using technology to connect the fans with the team is more important than ever before. You'll see it with Zoom, with two-way communication, and player and coaches doing these town hall meetings, virtual pregame shows, second screen platforms, depending on what league you're in and what they allow and don't allow, creating content that you can distribute through second screen. Delivering in-game experience for the players without fans in the stands, creating some sense of a normalcy for them. So we're piping in crowd noise now, and we're tailoring our music specific to the players to try to incite them a little bit and get them a little bit more energized. And using those digital resources, even without fans in the stands, to create a home field advantage. In addition to all of that, being creative in general, and staying within the health guidelines out there to create these experiences that you can do, like maybe drive-in events that you've seen maybe down in Texas with the Rangers, and viewing parties. But that's the mindset, and that's what's caused to change in terms of the environment of in stadium. But let's talk about without fans, but let's talk about when there are fans in the stands. And we're hoping coming up to the 2021 season to have, at the start of the season, some percentage of fans. And so for now, my mindset is delivering and engaging them with experiences that fall within those health guidelines, but we're reimagining how we use our entertainment resources. What I mean by that, our K crew, our mascots, our hosts no longer can high five or walk up and hug people. So we have to reimagine how we're going to utilize them, right? We can't do it the same way. And then we have to reimagine how we're going to do our pregame ceremonies, without access to the field. We're not going to have access to the field. So, these are just a couple of things that, we're being impacted by the pandemic, but how we're thinking through it and moving forward.
No, that's great. And just to kind of go back a little bit to how you started that, I love that you, instead of a pivot, we have this opportunity to be innovative, to be creative. This has never happened in our lifetime before. So, everyone out there is trying to find new ideas. So that's great that that's the mentality that you have about it. So final question, or almost our final question, where do you see the future of event presentation going?
One word: technology, right? Using the latest advancements to create meaningful connections with stakeholders. I've already talked a little bit about Zoom and how we've engaged players and coaches with that. And I'm sure everybody watching this has been on multiple Zooms. Interactive virtual fan experiences. I talked a little bit about Golden State with their Dub Hub, but NBA Bubble is well documented what they did with virtual fans and Microsoft Teams and how they came together. They were kind of the first to showcase that. Augmented and virtual reality, using the new technology to create more immersive and personalized experiences. I think you're going to see more and more of that. And then, things like drones, even, the way that we do fireworks isn't going to be the way we do fireworks anymore. They're going to be replaced by these advanced flying formation of drones, and, digital and mobile applications, right? Providing real-time in-stadium gamification. I think all of this is now and moving forward, and then whatever that new technology is going to be tomorrow, which we don't know about. But that's the exciting part of it. That's the exciting part about it. But the one thing I want to stress here is I hope that with all this new technology, we don't lose sight of what's most important too, and that's creating the traditional experience of coming to the game and what people have loved over all of the years. And we don't want to get people just to be staring at technology. We want to use it to enhance, not to overshadow.
So it really sounds like the sky's the limit here. We really don't know what's going to be around in a few years. So we just kind of take it as day by day and as it comes.
Good question. Constant learning. We're constantly learning.
No, I would have to agree there. So last question, are there any resources that you would recommend to people who want to learn more about event presentation?
I'm a huge advocate for job shadowing, and I think that's the first resource. There's no substitute for real-time research at any scale. So I understand the pandemic, I get that, but I think that is so important, is getting out there, job shadowing, and getting a practical look at if there's a specific area of interest. That's the only way to figure out that's going to be your niche or passion. If you can't right now with the pandemic, then it's networking, right? And going through informational interviews and connecting with these people and through LinkedIn, and then setting up Zooms. But then there's my podcast, specifically to event presentation. I don't think there's another podcast out there to go into the weeds of event presentation like I'm doing. I did it because of that very reason. I did it as an education for those that are interested in this industry, that interested in going into this industry, and those like myself who are in the industry. What I'm doing is I'm interviewing those who are really good at what they do in the sports and entertainment industry, and they're going through their best practices on this podcast. I'm telling you, it's a great opportunity for you to learn. And it's a great opportunity for you to connect with these people who are on the podcast, listen to the interviews, connect with them on via LinkedIn, ask them if you can have a Zoom, talk to them about some questions that you had through that interview, and suddenly now you're connected to these tremendously talented individuals. And then online tutorials, right? It's never a bad thing to get as much insight into creative software as you can. I, for one, have tried to get as skilled in the Adobe products as best I can. I'm not the one that creates all the animations or graphics, but it's good to understand the language and just have a fundamental understanding of how they work. And then some books, I would highly recommend Creative Inc. By Ed Catmull, where he talks about the creative process. Ed Catmull, along with Steve Jobs, started Pixar, and he became president of Disney Imagineering as well as Pixar. So he talks a lot about the creative process, creating a brain trust, very good. And then there's The Ride of a Lifetime. I'm a huge Disney fan. Bob Iger does a great job to talk about the lessons he learned over 15 years while CEO of Disney. And a lot of things there I learned and have implemented into what I'm doing now. And then Crucial Conversations by Carrie Patterson. Outstanding. This helps you to really face some of those tough decisions or some of the tough conversations you're going to have in any area of interest that you go into. And then I think we're all creatures of habit. I think The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg is a very good book because it tells you how important the things that we do, how it's going to shape your life. So I think for me, those are just some recommendations I would give to you.
Oh, that was wonderful. So back to your podcast, where can listeners go to find that? What's it called?
Yeah, so it's called The Rundown Podcast. You can find it on, go to my website. It's on my website. You can go there, but it's also on Stitcher and Apple, and it's on most of the primary mediums. But I would say go to my website at costantegroup.com. That's costantegroup.com. And then when you go there, go to the menu, scroll down to the Rundown Podcast. And I'm just starting my second season. So there's a complete first season there for you to go through. And, coming up, we're going to hear in February, we're going to be talking with a gentleman with NASCAR about the Daytona 500. And I think you're going to want to listen to this one.
No, that sounds great. Well, thank you so much, Don. This has been wonderful. It's been informative. I appreciate you taking the time to join me today. And after this, I have no doubt that anybody walking into a baseball stadium this spring, hopefully, will be looking at everything a little bit differently.
Jennifer, thanks for having me. Thank you.